r/AskReddit, what's the weirdest thing you ever heard in a funeral? My uncle's funeral, a family member who had ambitions of pop stardom got up and sang a song about sexual desire. The priest kept referring to the deceased as Nanette, but her name was Anne. Then went further, mentioning how unfair it was that she died at 20, but it was an open casket for a 94-year-old woman. Oops. Wrong note cards. Someone definitely got his dates mixed up. My grandfather with dementia at my grandma's funeral yelled out, "What the fuck was that all about?" when the minister/pastor finished his speech. Not too weird, but it was hilarious at the time. Miss that OL guy a lot. My good friend's dad was an alcoholic. He shot himself after shooting his girlfriend in a drunken argument. My friend was to give the eulogy. All my dad taught me was how to open a beer with a lighter and walked away. Poor guy. I wish your friend well. What a mess he left behind. My cousin Jimmy was 79, retired, and lived a full life with 2 loving grandchildren, now in their 30s, he raised after his son died from an OD. He didn't leave a mess behind, grandma. Jimmy sounds like an awesome person. The ill-informed priest consistently calling the deceased Julie. Her name was Julia. Down I go, a lady who was about to faint from the heat loudly exclaiming. Then thud. My uncle's funeral, the vicar asked my auntie if he had a nickname. Not really. In his 20s on the building site they called him Pork Chop because he had big sideburns, but he only worked there 2 years, he died at 74, the vicar changed his whole eulogy from Alec to Porky, even getting his hardly used nickname wrong. As they were lowering the casket. That's the first time the bastard has gone down in 30 years. I try not to think about that comment too much. Oh dip. r/Tahit. Ah, she makes a lovely corpse. Gotta love old Irish women. I lived down the road from a hospital, and my brother was in the nearest shop to us, which is the nearest shop to the hospital, and overheard an old one announce, "They won't even let him out for a cigarette, sure he might as well be dead," when one of checkout girls asked after her husband. Thankfully you added the second sentence. I was very scared the comment was overheard from a group of creepy men or something. The widow accidentally confirmed what many had suspected for years, she had cheated on her first husband with her now deceased husband. She talked about how they met and going down to visit him in another country for several years, you could literally see people doing the math in their heads. Kind of the same thing happened at my wife's stepmother's funeral. A photo of the couple flashed up and my wife and her siblings all turned to one another and knew the photo was taken prior to their parents splitting up. It was a bit awkward. I think the lady giving the eulogy was trying to say that even though the mother passed away her love is still with us, or something like that. But she started that section of the eulogy with, "Now that you are officially orphans." I couldn't believe it. I once saw a man suffering from vertigo in the hospital I worked at exclaim, "Oh, there I go," before he crumpled. I didn't want to laugh, but I had to step to the back. Old woman saying, "How is your father? I haven't seen him for a long time." To the son who lost his father. Dead I hope, since we're having this funeral for him. She probably had dementia. My mum sometimes asks if her own brother and sister are still alive. They're not. Had an uncle go on an extended racist diatribe about those people. I was expecting the person who was in the coffin to come back and beat the shit out of him because that is the last thing they ever wanted to hear. What group of people was the remark directed towards? We put a can of beer in my father's casket. We're pretty sure we heard it pop open at the cemetery, before he went into the ground. I'm sure that if we put a glass, a bottle of Kessler's, vermouth, bitters, and ice in my grandpa's casket we would have heard him making a Manhattan. Sorry for your loss. Move on. A random dude approached us and said my bad. Then fucking left the ceremony. Ha 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 ha, what? That was death. He probably misread the name on his list. I was at a funeral recently for a friend who committed suicide. Largely in part because he was gay and his family wouldn't accept him. His dad was a Seventh-day Adventist and the preacher was saying that we all have a guardian angel. That his guardian angel could have saved him but he didn't because it's God's plan. And we thank God for the train that hit him, we thank God. We absolutely do not thank God. He was 20, I wanted to punch that guy in that mouth. That's just sick. I'm so sorry. My granddad always said he wanted If You Don't Know Me By Now played at his funeral. As the curtains shut at the cremation, this is exactly what played. Well played, granddad. Well played. I've always hated that song but now your granddad has made me like it. Bravo. Pastor or someone of religious stature was speaking at a wake. Part of the script she was reading from said, "Take me away to the Jesus land." The first thing me and my brother thought of was an amusement park with Jesus-themed attractions, good old buddy Jesus at the front gate shooting finger guns and blessing you with safe passage. We had to stifle our laughter with coughs and left the area to let people grieve in peace while we went outside to laugh like hyenas. My sister wanted to put the story about my dad's failed suicide attempt just after I was born in his eulogy. I watched family members fighting at their mother's funeral about who gets fucking what. Weird to me. Often people fight for inheritance even before the person's death. Priest, the day, child's name, died was the best day of my life. He was trying to make a point about how God was teaching him a lesson through the child's death, but holy shit, what a way to phrase it. You could feel the oxygen sucked out of the room as everyone gasped at the same time. Not at the funeral, but my oldest brother did this with me and my brother when my mother died. What's weird is mom didn't have anything valuable. Other brother and I just shrugged, but oldest brother would keep arguing even though we didn't say anything. We weren't getting into a row over costume, jewelry and posters. Greedy ass MFS. A kid I knew as a teen died in a motorcycle accident. He had a GF and child. His mother took a moment to state that people didn't think the kid and his GF were supposed to be together, but they loved each other. Then proceeded to play Don't Matter by Akon in its entirety. Went to a friend's funeral and she had requested Shake Shake Sano by Harry Belafonte be played. Never laughed and cried at the same time for different reasons. You may recognize the song from the film Beetlejuice. Link. It's not really weird, but it got me to laugh, and I still laugh. Stop arguing, this is my husband's last funeral. And another on the same day by the same woman. You liar, you promised me 50 years and only gave me 48. And to add, I had some clothes I thought looked nice, but I guess they were not because she was pacing back and forth before finally saying, "Come here, you are not wearing that to my husband's funeral." Then she gave me one of his old suits to wear XD. How many funerals are you attending? My late husband had PTSD and ended his own life. At his funeral, we did not tell people the method he used. Everyone kept hugging me, telling me to hang in there. I felt so sick every time someone said that. Then there were the people who would say things like, "I'll find love again, still young." I'm sorry, I was there to say goodbye to my husband, not make plans to move on. I heard the same things when my husband died about moving on and even asked if there was a chance I was pregnant. People are idiots. Person giving a speech pointing out who the dead person's favorite grandchild was. This happened in front of other grandchildren. Well, imagine this, amidst the solemn atmosphere, someone's phone went off playing Stayin' Alive. The irony was both awkward and strangely fitting at the same time. Did the priest know the child or family personally? Why was he trying to make the funeral speech about himself? Not heard, but seen. When my grandmother died, several old women came to the funeral and gave their phone numbers to my grandfather. In front of my grandmother's coffin. I know a couple of people were joking at a funeral to make sure the casket was level. The deceased was a builder and a stickler for detail. I have seen an argument devolve into a fist fight over one of the 20 watches the deceased had. Luckily not my family, I was delivering tea at that crematorium and watched it happen from the kitchen. The first one seems kind of sweet to me. I would want my friends to find some happiness in internal jokes like that when I die. During a eulogy given by one of the deceased relatives ended with, "As for me, put my ashes in a douche and run me through one more time." We didn't know what to say, we just kinda looked at each other with that look of, well, that's befitting. LOL. Reminds me of the time when I was a child my stepdad said if I die I want my ashes baked into a chili so I can wreck your mom's asshole one last time. I'm so glad they divorced. In my dad's eulogy for his father, he told everybody that grandpa tried to kill him by allowing a tractor to tip over on him. Oddly enough, a friend of the family had died when a tractor he was riding tipped over and pinned him to the ground. It's pretty weird. Grandpa definitely murdered that poor dude. At my uncle's funeral, my cousin stood up and did a speech about herself. Hello everyone. Thanks for sticking to the end of this video. I really appreciate it. I just wanted to humbly ask you to subscribe to the channel. According to my statistics, 100% of my viewers in the past 28 days are not subscribed. I have always wanted this channel to reach 1,000 subscribers, and if you want to support and be a part of that, subscribe. It's free and it's an awesome way to support the channel. Thanks again, Reddit glitch out.